Hello, everybody. This is Team Gold, and we are going to be concentrating on trade, transportation, utilities, and information systems. Our group is comprised of Gabriel, Jerry, and Nicholas. We are going to be reviewing trade, transportation, utilities, and information systems, all integral parts to our global environment.
Gabriel Graterol, and I'm going to talk about trade. Trade is the action of buying and selling goods and services, and it has two main groups. Retail trade. This sector comprises establishments engaged in retailing merchandises, generally without transformation, and rendering services incidental to the sale of merchandise. An example of this is your regular grocery store or any other retail establishment that sells small quantity of products. The second group is the wholesale trade. This sector comprises establishments engaged in wholesaling merchandises, generally without transformation, and rendering services incidental to the sale of merchandise. Wholesale trade is generally bigger quantity of merchandises and work as a supplier for retail trade. There are many risks that can affect trade, like disruption in the supply chain or logistic problems. Similar to what we saw in 2020 with the Ever Given the block, one of the eight more important choke points of international trade, that was the Suez Canal. In this case, it lasts for 6 days, blocking approximately 9 billion US dollar equivalent in merchandise every day.
The transportation equipment and manufacturing sector produces equipment for transporting people and goods. The sector consists of two industry groups: motor vehicle manufacturing, motor vehicle body and trailer manufacturing. Each contribute prominently and are directly a result of the country's success in expanding our business globally. Examples of this transportation equipment manufacturing include motor vehicles, parts, aircraft, aerospace products, ships and boats, and railroad rolling stock. Demand is driven by employment and interest rates, growth in consumer income, military budgets, and the overall economic climate. The profitability of individual companies depends on manufacturing efficiency, technical expertise, and product quality. Next, we're going to look at innovation and creativity. Use of the composites material instead of sheet metal in construction for truck bodies, which transport goods and services, can result in a reduced corrosion and possibly even a lighter weight for better fuel efficiency. The next idea we had for this sector is green energy. So green energy in transport includes all transport modes, alternative fuels, technologies, and all of this reduces the negative impact on our environment. Eco-friendly vessels have really taken over this area, and we feel that it can reduce emissions and greenhouse gases. Ships are incorporated with energy efficient propulsion systems and streamlined hull design to reduce friction during navigation. Now, there's some risks in this industry and some challenges to overcome. For instance, the driver shortage, government regulations, rising operating costs, and the number of drivers is quickly decreasing, and the remaining drivers are in demand, and salaries are in demand as well, and on the rise. And due to these challenges, higher shipping costs are anticipated in 2023.
As we move into our next industry, utility, the biggest sector of the utility is energy. Energy is a key utility for every single nation that wants to function on a very basic and necessary level. Some interesting information about the energy industry in the US is, first, the three major categories of energy for electricity generation are fossil fuels, which includes coal, natural gas, and petroleum, nuclear energy, and renewable energy resources. The next, fossil fuels are the largest source of energy for electricity generation. The next fact is that many renewable energy sources are used to generate electricity and were the source of about 20% of total U.S. electricity generation in 2021. On to our next slide. I'm going to be providing you with some information and research on the utility industry. Some innovations include Siemens Corporation. They've proposed developing a green technologies digital companion that combines semantic technologies, machine learning, and augmented reality to give grid operators better visibility into the grid status. I know that this is a complicated sentence, but this basically just means that it makes the tracking of electricity and how much we use a lot more sustainable and convenient. The next innovation we have on the utility industry is from South California Edison University. They've proposed virtualizing components of electric grid substations and operating them using a human-machine interface. Now, these innovations seem minute and non-consequential, but they do speak to this country's advancement of technology as a whole and how far we've come in such a relatively short time. Next, when we do speak about utilities, we have to speak about risk. And one of the biggest risks that we do have is the consequences of global warming. In our first slide, we did talk about fossil fuels and how important it is to the energy industry. Fossil fuels and our reliance on fossil fuels has proved fatal for our environment, as all scientists have pointed to. Moving on to our next slide on information systems. Although 20 years ago this would be scoffed at, the increasing importance of internet has made it almost as equally as important as electricity. The information industry is now synonymous with the internet, so much so that you cannot talk about information without talking about the World Wide Web. Almost everything needs internet in this day and age to function, as many businesses would not be able to sustain themselves in a globalized economy. Some interesting information on the internet infrastructure in the United States is as follows. Today, 93% of American adults use the internet. The next fact would be today that 15% of American adults are smartphone-only internet users, meaning they own a smartphone but do not have traditional home broadband service. The next would be the reliance on smartphones for online access is especially common among younger adults, lower income Americans, and those with a high school education or less. Moving on to our next slide. We're going to talk about innovations. So a recent and big development in the world of information systems came from the White House on April 28, 2022. The United States and 60 other countries launched a declaration regarding the future of the internet. The US and 60 other countries declared to do the following. Protect human rights and fundamental freedoms of all people, promote a global internet that advances the free flow of information, advance inclusive and affordable connectivity so that all people can benefit from the digital economy, promote trust in the global digital ecosystem, including through protection of privacy, protect and strengthen the multi-stakeholder approach to governance that keeps the internet running for the benefit of all. Another innovation for information systems in the US surrounds download speeds. This is essentially how quickly the internet responds to things like streaming or surfing the web, which has allowed Americans to get their data much faster than other countries. The quote goes that the average US download speed in June 2022 is up from 138 megabits per second in March 2020. So the global average being 134 megabits per second puts the US at a much higher rate of growth. Going on to our next slide, the risks within the information industry all include the risk of being online in an age where internet hijacking is so prevalent. These risks include phishing, pretexting, and malware. The most prominent and risky for internet users is phishing. Phishing is described as a cybercrime in which a target or targets are contacted by email, telephone, or text message by someone posing as a legitimate institution to lure individuals into providing sensitive data such as personally identifiable information, banking and credit card details, and passwords. The next risk is known as pretexting, and this proved to be very effective in the theft of one's identity. Pretexting is described as a form of social engineering in which an attacker tries to convince a victim to give up valuable information or access to a service or system. Now, the last risk, malware, can really leave you exposed and can also critically damage your computer. Malware is described as an intrusive software that is designed to damage and destroy computers and computer systems.
We choose to evaluate the risks and benefits of each industry considering the following aspect. First is the job number comparison. Here was not a surprise to see that the trade sector occupies almost 3/4 of the job position of all industry combined, mostly because of the retail trade sector. In base of what we saw in the last graph, we would expect similar behavior for the number of job openings in 2022, which is the second graph. But it was a surprise to see that trade actually had little increase, which indicate that the industry is in an static phase. On the other hand, transportation, as expected, has a high number of jobs opening by the beginning of 2022. But the number that is really interesting is in the sector of information system, which is one of the smallest in size comparison with other industries, but it had the second highest number of job openings. This indicates that the industry of information system is having an exponential growth, making it one of the most interesting industries. Now, comparing the average hourly earning within these four industries, we found that the two highest salaries numbers are in the two smallest industries, which are utility and information systems. The last graph was made using the combined fatalities for each industry during the years 2018, 2019, and 2020. And what we see is that transportation is the industry with the highest number of fatalities, being the most risky industry. And this can also explain why they have so many new job openings, because it is a factor that can make this industry less desirable.
Creativity and profit. There's a natural connection between creativity and profit, and it is not a surprise that comparing all of these fields, the one with the highest salary average is information systems. There are many creative tools that can be implemented in all of these industries to increase their reach. One suggestion in the trade area would be increasing productivity of warehouses using spatially intelligent warehousing, which is a tool that allows companies to increment efficiencies in their warehouse. A recommendation that we have for the utility sector would be to incorporate cleaner energy into the respectful business plans. Not only is this better for the environment, but it also is sustainable business practice with more and more consumers focusing on reducing their carbon footprint. With this, the U.S. government has implemented financial incentives for corporations who prioritize the environment. A recommendation to improve the information industry's profits lies with internet service providers. According to the Washington Post, fiber optics seems to be the connection method of choice for the future. A recommendation our team has towards transportation sector is smart shipping, which means smart ships can reduce the number of people at risk at sea. Smart shipping automates ship operations, ensures crew safety, and increases fuel efficiency by providing greater insights into ship performance. A recommendation our team has towards the utility industry would be for large energy corporations worldwide to become more forthcoming with their secrets and attempt to optimize everyone's view on energy utilization. As for the information industry, the recommendation would be to pass down to increase collaboration is for information systems to be to make information more attainable across the internet. A suggestion in the trade industry is to increase the use of geographic